Okay, good morning once again, speaking as myself this time. I would like to talk about the dyas-net.gr project within the context of the Greek humanities landscape. As most of you probably know, Greece has a long tradition in humanities scholarship. In fact, the emergence of the discipline was a component of the Greek Enlightenment, a late 18th century cultural movement that was one of the main factors that led to the rise of Greek nationalism, the Greek War of Independence, and eventually the foundation of the Greek state in the 1830s. Since then, humanities, with a particular emphasis on the classical Greek and Byzantine heritage, have been cultivated with the initial aim of exploring, defining and interpreting Greece's cultural tradition, social history and national identity. As such, for over a century and a half, they formed the backbone of Greek state education, a tradition that is currently being enriched by new trends within the scholarship of humanities and social sciences. Humanities teaching and research are practiced mainly, but not exclusively, at public universities and research institutions, and are almost exclusively state-funded, with an important caveat that often applies to state funding services in Greece. Since scholarships are few, most often young PhD candidates and junior researchers, the driving force of humanities research, fund their research privately out of family savings. Apart from problems of funding and research policy, inaccessibility to research infrastructure has been the major obstacle to research for many years. Poor or non-existing finding aids, staff shortage, inadequate facilities, institutional policies are some of the obstacles that researchers as well as institutional personnel have been striving to overcome. Yet, in recent years, libraries, archives, museums, private and public collections have responded to the demands of researchers with increasing efficiency, in many cases incredibly well. The spectacular increase in PhDs since the late 1980s cannot but reflect this progress. The 1980s were a remarkable decade in another sense too. They brought about the spectacular rise in the use of the computer and the introduction of software as auxiliary tools to assist scholars in accessing and interpreting their data. During the 1980s and 1990s, a number of projects were launched within the archival departments of the banking sector, where scholars used computer technology for quantitative analysis and interpretation of large numerical data sets. Demographic, economic, and social history, as well as the social sciences, were among the disciplines that benefited first from this technological and methodological innovation. With the advent of the digital age, the massive wave of digitization and the information explosion associated with digital libraries during the early 21st century, scholars have increasingly been moving towards the use of digitized resources and computational tools. Libraries, archives, museums, and other cultural heritage institutions have already digitized a substantial amount of their collections, benefiting from the generous funding supplied within the third community support framework. ICT professionals have offered their expertise in the process while gradually responding and on several occasions even anticipating the needs of historians, archaeologists, linguists, literary scholars, and other researchers for high-quality digital resources and tools. As a consequence, digital humanities as an independent discipline are currently emerging in Greece and are undertaking groundbreaking research in the arts and humanities. Several research institutes are actively involved in digital humanities projects, mainly as partners in major European collaborative initiatives. Indeed, the major innovation that the technological revolution of the digital age has brought to the humanities is a shift in the research paradigm. Analogies between the present age and the age of the Gutenberg revolution have often been drawn. As Elizabeth Eisenstein wrote in her classical work, The Printing Press as an Agent of Change, published at the dawn of the digital age, and I quote, "Printing encouraged forms of combinatory activity which were social as well as intellectual. It changed relationships between men of learning as well as between systems of ideas," unquote. Nowadays, driven by technology, research is becoming open, collaborative, interdisciplinary, and transnational. It has also brought about a change in the underlying system of ideas. In search for a new ideological foundation for pushing beyond the boundaries of knowledge, the trend in current scholarship is not only towards exploring intellectual currents, but also towards applying new technologies and methods to generate new knowledge. In this setting, a number of leading scholars in the emerging discipline of digital humanities from France, Germany, the UK, and the Netherlands took the initiative to set up a research infrastructure to support digital humanities across Europe. Laurent Romary of INRIA, who is present here with us today as a director of DARIA, Sheila Anderson of King's College, UK, and Peter Dorn of DANS, the Netherlands, are the three persons who deserve mentioning and thanking for their role in the conception of DARIA. It was a sign of changing times that the European Strategy Forum for Research Infrastructures, EFRI, which has been mentioned already, selected humanities projects for inclusion in its roadmap for the first time. Digital research infrastructure for the arts and humanities, DARIA, was one of these projects. In September 2008, a preparatory phase project was launched, a project in which 14 institutions from 10 different European countries took part. The project was completed in February 2011. Greece was represented by two partners, the Academy of Athens and Research Center Athena. One of the aims of the European initiative was to create a European digital infrastructure ecosystem by encouraging national initiatives across Europe to set up their own research infrastructures for the arts and humanities. Indeed, in the case of Greece, the challenge was taken up by the main state funding agency, the Greek Secretariat for Research and Technology. And so the AS, a network of institutions coordinated by the Academy of Athens, was formed in 2009 with the launching of the preparatory phase for the development of the Greek research infrastructure for the humanities. The feasibility study for this infrastructure was also completed in February 2011. Meanwhile, in November 2010, the Secretary General for Research and Technology signed a memorandum of understanding undertaking to support the creation of the European DARIA. The two projects moved on concurrently and in parallel. Concentrating on the Greek project, dyas-net was launched in May 2003 by the dyas network. Dyas, which is dyad or doublet or pair, stands for Δίκτυο Υποδομών για την Έρευνα στις Ανθρωπιστικές Επιστήμες, or in English, Research Infrastructure Network for the Humanities. And it consists of the partners you're seeing there, the Academy of Athens in a coordinating role, the Research Center Athena, the University of Athens, the Institute for Computer and Communication Systems, the Athens School of Fine Arts, and the Foundation for Research and Technology, Hellas. As you can see, the dyas network consists of higher education institutions and humanities and ICT research institutions. It brings together members of the research community, digital cultural heritage managers, and ICT professionals specializing in the arts and humanities. It aims at addressing the needs of two types of stakeholders related to the arts and humanities. Firstly, the service providers, research and academic institutions, cultural heritage institutions, and technological institutions. To them, the project proposes participation in the infrastructure which is being constructed. Secondly, it concerns the research community as users of digital services. They form the critical mass of researchers who will use the services of the European and the national research infrastructures. Panos will explain in detail the project's scope, but I will just give the general framework. As researchers, from beginners through to those employing advanced techniques and methods, increasingly adopt digital tools and methodologies in their daily practice, they require long-term access to and use of available digital research data and support for their research at all stages of the data life cycle. This can only be achieved by a national infrastructure that will ensure that digital content is available to the researcher and meets certain criteria of authenticity, reliability, and quality, that the reference system used for documentation is stable and accessible to other researchers, and that research results are published and reusable. So the infrastructure will ensure the adoption of rules for interoperability, standards, and best practices. It will ensure the dissemination of digital tools and guidelines, and it will provide training and educational services to the research community. Pooling and coordinating the efforts and expertise of existing specialized ICT and interdisciplinary scientific and scholarly teams is considered to be the most cost-effective solution. Therefore, as the feasibility study of 2011 proposed, the Greek DARIA is a distributed infrastructure based on the model adopted for the European DARIA. The network and the project work in two directions. Domestically, our aim is to bring together humanities and ICT professionals, whether as partners in or as users of the infrastructure, as I explained earlier. Internationally, it cooperates with DARIA EU by participating in the VCC or Virtual Competence Centers, the centers of expertise around which DARIA's activities are organized. At this point, I wish to express my thanks to 4 institutions for their invaluable assistance in making this project both a successful venture, but also one with a bright prospect. First of all, the Research Center Athena and the director of its digital curation unit, Panos Kosendopoulos, with whom we have been co-travelers since the very beginning. Panos, the main credit for the creation of the infrastructure goes to you and your collaborators. Secondly, I wish to thank DARIA EU. Where is DARIA EU? Over there, yeah. In particular, Laurent Romary and Sally Chambers, for the generous support and advice throughout the project and for the presence here today. We are sure our close collaboration will be expanded in the coming months. Thirdly, the Academy of Athens, its president, Professor Epaminondas Spiliotopoulos, who unfortunately is not here today, for his unwavering support and encouragement, and its Secretary General, Mr. Vasilios Petrakos, thanks to whose generous support, Greece has become a founding member of DARIA EU. And finally, the Greek Secretary General, the current Secretary General, Dr. Christos Basilakos, and all previous Secretaries General, for believing in the cause of research infrastructures and for supporting DARIA-GR in particular. Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. In the years to come, humanities research will be more and more carried out in a digital environment. Therefore, a Greek national infrastructure that will enhance and support digitally enabled research and teaching and link with the European infrastructure is absolutely necessary. And I believe its viability is assured. However, although the prospects of the Greek digital humanities infrastructure are bright, we cannot ignore the fact that the Greek humanities landscape remains jagged. One aspect of the problem is at the same time both practical and methodological. Only a very small fraction of resources have been digitized, and an even smaller sub-fraction has been documented so as to meet the researchers' requirements for authenticity, reliability, and qualities that are considered obvious prerequisites in the analog world. Since it is clearly utopian to believe that all conceivable material will ever be fully known, accessible, and digitized, it is realistic to leave it to researchers to prioritize which material should be digitized and to provide them with the support they require, not only in accessing resources, but in all stages of their research. The other aspect is cultural. Scientists have long ago turned to digital methods and tools to pursue their research, from data creation through to publication. Humanities researchers, on the other hand, are less inclined to do so full-heartedly. I will not analyze the reasons here. I will simply remark that the trend might be quite strong in Greece, but it is not only a Greek peculiarity. It will take time and effort to shift the emphasis of research from one methodology to the other. But as more and more resources are born digital or added to the pool of digitized material, as arts and humanities researchers and cultural heritage personnel are trained in the use of new methods and tools and endorse a culture of open access, the use of the digital infrastructure will prevail. And with this encouraging remark, I'm closing my address today. Thank you very much.